Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to News Dose. And if you weren't already tired of acquisition season, well, it doesn't really sound like it's slowing down anytime soon. Yes, there's a new claim going around that Xbox is targeting even more studios beyond just Activision Blizzard, and if they were to pull this off, they really will end up becoming a complete and rounded powerhouse in the game industry. Also, we do have a publishing deal to talk about that is suddenly free, I guess you could say. I'm not sure if that's necessarily a good thing or not, but overall, should be another fun day on News Dose. And actually, about that, if you do like this type of stuff, you know what to do. Hit those buttons below. Like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you never miss one of my videos again. Let's just go and dive right into things, though, and we did get a bit of a strange update for Resident Evil 4 Remake. Actually, again. So, a few weeks ago, if you remember right, at TGS, Capcom did make a surprising announcement that it's not only coming to the Xbox Series, PlayStation 5, and PC, but it's also heading over to the PlayStation 4. Now, at the time of this announcement, not everybody necessarily seemed thrilled about that, because it does seem like a lot of people are just kind of ready to move on to next-generation only games. But hey, it looks like they're only sticking with the PlayStation 4, and maybe they're ditching the Xbox One, probably because the original 2013 console is weaker, or at least that's what it looked like at the time of that announcement. However, with another surprising update, it's now been spotted that an Xbox One listing has popped up on Amazon UK. As you can see here, the box art appears to be a smart delivery game, which takes us really back to square one. It does at the very least appear that Resident Evil 4 Remake is a complete cross-generation title, though honestly, I don't really see this as a big problem or anything like that. The truth is, the Resident Evil engine looks phenomenal on last-generation consoles, especially on the Xbox One X and the PlayStation 4 Pro. I know some games have struggled on the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One, like Cyberpunk as an example, and something like that could hold back the Xbox Series and the PlayStation 5. But when it comes to Resident Evil, they haven't really had that problem. They do look good on both generations of consoles, as we've seen, and I think Resident Evil 4 will just kind of continue that trend. Probably at 30 frames per second on the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4, and then with the Xbox Series and the PlayStation 5, it'll probably run at 60 frames per second, or close to it, with all those extra bells and whistles, as we've seen with other Resident Evil games, including Village. Keep in mind, though, that there's no official confirmation for that Xbox One version as of yet, though, but I do want to hear from you all. Are you in the camp that's ready for these developers to ditch last-generation consoles completely, or are you okay when you hear announcements like this? Now, Netflix, they're also continuing their investment and interest in gaming. We have seen them jump into those acquisition conversations in the last year or so as they bought out Night School Studios, the Oxenfree creator that was already very notable. But now they're taking yet another step by creating their very own in-house internal studio. Yeah, this was out of left field, but they did just establish a new studio over in Helsinki, Finland, led by the former Zynga manager, which I do think might be a sign as to what to expect here. But first, let's just go and check out their official statement on the matter. As you can see, Netflix said that this is another step in our vision to build a world-class game studio that will bring a variety of delightful and deeply engaging original games, with no ads and no in-app purchases, to our hundreds of millions of members around the world. It's still early days, and we have much more work to do to deliver a great games experience on Netflix. Creating a game can take years, so I'm proud to see how we're steadily building the foundation of our game studio in our first year, and look forward to sharing what we produce in the coming years. So there it is. Netflix is growing their gaming side of the business with more original content, but when I look at their lead to this new studio, it is the former Zynga manager, and then just their overall statement regarding no ads and no in-game purchases. So far, and this could still change in the future, but so far, it does seem like Netflix is just kind of targeting smaller style of games that could fit into the more mobile market side of things. Now that does make sense considering a lot of Netflix subscribers probably use their mobile devices quite often, but one thing that they are making clear here is that they are looking for more original content for their gaming business. So do expect them to be a player when it comes to acquisitions, and I wouldn't be overly surprised if we see them pick up some more independent studios that are a little bit on the smaller side of things. Now we'll see if they start to dive into those bigger AAA style of games. We'll see about all that, but without a doubt, one way or the other, do expect them to be a player when it comes to acquisitions. Next up, let's go and talk about The Last of Us, and no, I'm not talking about the PS5 remake or the PS4 remaster for the original PlayStation 3 title that released back in 2013. No, I'm actually talking about the more cinematic reproduction, the HBO Max show, as they dropped a new trailer just yesterday. And yes, I do poke fun at all the re-releases of The Last of Us and everything, but I actually am very much hoping this new show turns out good. I'll kind of explain that here in just a moment. But they did drop a new teaser trailer confirming a 2023 release and gave us our first glimpse at various characters, including Joel and Ellie. They even gave us our first look at the clickers, which are looking pretty good so far, and definitely go check the trailer out if you are interested. I'm not going to show its trailer on my channel for copyright-related reasons, but it actually does look pretty good so far in my opinion. It does seem like from what they've shown so far, it looks pretty faithful to the source material, which is the most important thing for me. It does seem like they got the tone right, they did a good job recreating some of the scenes, and the choice of actors, they seem good so far as well. This isn't really an Uncharted situation where Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg just didn't really feel like great choices as Nathan Drake and Sully. I mean, good actors and everything, but there was that immediate question regarding if they fit the characters or not. And it seems like with The Last of Us, there's not really those questions. Maybe with Ellie a little bit, but I do think for the most part, I liked what I saw. And it seems like they are trying to stick with the source material for the most part, which gives me some slight hope that it will turn out to be a good game adaptation. The way I kind of look at this personally, though, is that while the game is amazing and everything, and I don't really expect the show to top that, this does give me a chance to share that experience, a great world, a story, and its characters with my wife, as she doesn't really play games. She's not really a gamer, so this does give people like me an opportunity to share this experience with somebody else, and that's why I'm looking forward to this adaptation. Now, nonetheless, though, we are already seeing a ton of interest in this show already. Benji Sells posted this up over on Twitter. By the way, go follow him. He's a great follow. But he did post the day one stats, and as you can see here, between Twitter and YouTube, has already gotten 20 plus million views. And I mean, this is just 24 hours, so this is just absolutely crazy. So it does look like there's some pretty high expectations. There's a lot of interest in this show, and we could end up seeing a massively successful game adaptation next year. Now let's just kind of hope it actually turns out to be a good adaptation. Now, one thing that we're certainly no strangers to, and I mean, we even discussed it a little bit earlier with Netflix, or game studio acquisitions. I mean, it really just seems like everybody's getting gobbled up right now, and obviously a big part of that is Microsoft. They've been very active getting studios like Obsidian Entertainment, you have Double Fine, Playground Games, Ninja Theory, Bethesda, that was a major one, and now they're even trying to get Activision Blizzard. But that there is kind of the big question here. Not every day do you hear about a nearly $70 billion acquisition, and in fact, we've never seen that in the game industry before. So that does beg the question, is Microsoft done with game studio acquisitions? Well, Phil Spencer, I mean, we talked about this before, but he previously did hint at no, that's not the case at all. He claims that they want to remain active, and there's going to be no slowdown on their part going forward. So you do already have that claim to go by. But to just kind of add more fuel to the fire here, Imran Khan over on Giant Bombcast made a new claim that might have zeroed in on some of Xbox's future targets. So let's just go and check out what he had to say. They, as in Microsoft, have talked with major Japanese publishers about acquisitions. Like, I can't speak to how far those discussions have gone, but they are very clearly interested in some major Japanese publishers, they're interested in smaller studios, they're still interested in more acquisitions. Now, and this should be very clear here, you should take this statement as nothing more than a rumor for the time being. Imran Khan does have a pretty good track record and everything, but this is not coming from Microsoft, and nothing's absolute or official. For that matter, I'm always skeptical when it comes to acquisition claims from journalists and insiders, just because that type of stuff doesn't really usually leak out. I mean, there has been a few occasions, but it's very, very rare, so do take all of this with a grain of salt. However, as I just prefaced, this does echo some things Phil Spencer has mentioned in the past, and in fact, as we've discussed on his very channel multiple times actually, Phil Spencer has very specifically mentioned interest in Japanese studios. So it's not like this is just coming out of nowhere. There was already speculation that this was eventually going to happen. But what I think was so interesting about this claim is that Imran Khan did very specifically mention major Japanese publishers. Now, he did also say smaller studios, but publishers, if that part is true, This is at a much grander scope than what was originally thought and makes anybody really open game here. That means that they could have had discussions with Square Enix. They might have had discussions with Capcom. You have Konami, Sega, and the list just kind of goes on and on and on. So there's a lot of options there on top of those smaller studios that was already speculated on, like Platinum Games. Now, if any of this does come to fruition, though, it is very important to keep in mind here that nothing is going to happen anytime soon. So you have to understand that until that Activision ordeal is finished up with, that does kind of tie their hands, because that is a tricky situation when it comes to regulations and all. I would not expect any type of acquisitions until that is finished up. At the very least, though, this does kind of point to some possible future targets after all that's said and done. Now, for my own 2 cents here, though, if anything like this does happen in the future, there's actually one studio that's on my own personal wish list. Only one. And that all really just lies with Mistwalker. If there was ever a chance, here it is. Bring them back to console development with games like Lost Odyssey and Blue Dragon. I would love to see Mistwalker come back to console development. I just hate that they have been in the background working on mobile games for years and years, because they are just far too talented to just solely focus on that. So, I mean, I'd love to see Microsoft just kind of write them a blank check, bring them back to consoles. But again, with this claim, it really does seem like anybody could be a target. And if Microsoft does pull this off with some key buyouts, then Xbox, which is already in a pretty strong position as is, especially with a potential Activision Blizzard purchase, this would really put them in an even higher tier, because then Xbox would be even more well-rounded. Exclusive Japanese games really would be that missing piece for them, as they could just bring these Japanese games to Xbox Game Pass day one, and something like this, that could be game-changing for them. So while this is only a rumor for the time being, this is definitely worth keeping an eye on once all is said and done with Activision Blizzard. I want to hear from you all, though. List me some Japanese studios and maybe even publishers that Xbox might target in the future. Let me know in the comments below. Now, we did also get an update on one of People Can Fly's next games. This is the studio behind games like Bulletstorm and most recently Outriders. So they do have some prominent AAA games that they've worked on in the past. But there was a surprise announcement today as they revealed Take-Two. They sent them a letter of intent to terminate their publishing agreement on one of their next AAA games, codenamed Project Dagger. Now, there does seem to be some confusion with this announcement because I have seen some people kind of jump to the conclusion that this was for what is speculated as the next Outriders game. But that's actually not the case here. Square Enix is actually the publisher for Outriders, and they are still working on another AAA project with People Can Fly, codenamed Gemini. So if there was any confusion, these are completely separate games. It is kind of odd, though, to see Take-Two bail out on a big AAA project like this, though. People Can Fly, they claim that it will strengthen their own self-publishing plans, so maybe they requested the two just go their own separate ways. They did say it was mutual, but nothing is really clear about all that and why the decision was made. I mean, technically, we could end up seeing another publisher step in and pick up this game. Square Enix, again, they might have something to say about that, considering they seem pretty happy about Outriders. There's Xbox, they did have that as a Game Pass game, so maybe they could come and step in here, but we'll just have to see what happens from this point forward. People Can Fly, though, they do seem very busy as of this moment. Sounds like they have like 6 games in development, so yeah, they have a lot going on, and we should hear about various games from them in the coming years. Let's go and take a look at the poll of the day, though, where I asked you all, do you think Halo Infinite should add a Battle Royale style game mode that is currently in the rumor mill and everything? And it does seem like the community is a little split on this one, with 49% of you saying yes, while 41% of you said no. Now, that is something that I have seen when it comes to the Halo community. There definitely seems to be a split opinion on this, because a lot of people that play Halo don't really care for Battle Royale. And they don't really want Battle Royale to become a main component and just take away from what makes Halo so special in the first place, those tight arena maps. Well, the good news here for those that are concerned about any of that is that the rumor going around currently is that Certain Affinity is working on this new game mode that puts its own Halo-esque spin on things. It sounds like there might be multiple lives, and there's even ways to revive, so in that way, it will be Halo-esque. So I think even for me, somebody that doesn't really like Battle Royales, I'm actually interested to see how they could go about something like this. Plus, I think that it would do the Halo brand a lot of good, because that would mean that it could possibly entice new players to jump into Halo Infinite, and considering the game struggles so far with consistent new content, This could really help Halo Infinite out in a major way. On top of that, because this would be handled by Certain Affinity, it's not really going to take away from 343. They'll still be working on all of those beloved game modes as is. So I don't really see a major harm in this edition myself. Now that's just my opinion, but kind of looking through the comments here, Ardent said this: a Battle Royale is alright and should add a bit of spice, but they need to have classic maps that people have known and loved over the years. I remember when Frank O'Connor from Bungie would post highly detailed blogs just about the work that was going into the maps for Halo 3. And actually about that, I do have some more good news here, because a classic map, The Pit, is coming back to Halo Infinite. It's a remade version in the new Forge mode, but it still looks like The Pit from Halo 3, and I am with you. I want to see more of these classic maps return as well, because they are that good, but I do think that we will see more of this, especially with Forge mode incoming. The community will absolutely remake more of these maps, and then 343, they might include them in the main part of the game. That's kind of the thing though, because I think that we will see a major uptick in new maps in general next year. Forge really might end up being a major game changer for Halo Infinite, as it really looks amazing so far. But I think with all that going on, and then maybe a new Battle Royale from Certain Affinity, we could possibly see Halo Infinite make a big comeback when all of that is out. I guess we'll see. Anyways though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget to bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.